All right, everybody, let's get today's show started. Hi, everybody. Happy Wednesday. It's time for the Lunchtime Discovery Series. Good to be with you all for another edition of our program. And happy Earth Month. That's right. April 22nd is Earth Day. And why should we only celebrate Earth one day out of the year? We could at least spend one whole month doing it. And that's what we're doing here at the Lunchtime Discovery Series. The programs this month, as always, have been organized and coordinated by the folks in the Office of Environmental Education within the Department of Environmental Quality. And they have reached out to some fantastic people who are doing incredible work out there for the planet. Stuff like working with endangered species and doing conservation and environmental education and more to try to make the world a better place for all of the wild things and wild places out there that I love, and I'm pretty sure that all of you love as well, especially here in the state of North Carolina, where we are biased. We have some of the best wild things and wild places. And of course, doing a lot of that work is your North Carolina Museum of Natural Sciences, where I work. My name's Chris. I'm your host for the program. But we have people who are out there in the field working with people every day to try to make a difference out there. And one of those people is the Project Restore program specialist for this Museum of Natural Sciences, Danielle Pender. Hi, Danielle.
Hi, how are you doing, Chris?
It's a wonderful day, albeit a little bit chilly here in central North Carolina, but it's sunshiny and it feels like a great opportunity to think and talk about animals and wild things and wild places.
Fantastic.
So I say we jump into it, everybody. I'll remind folks that you can leave your thoughts and comments and questions for Danielle in the chat as we go through the program. So don't miss out on the opportunity to have a conversation with us after the presentation. Queue up your thoughts as we go along. Danielle, can you
All
teach
right.
us a little bit about Project Restore today?
Yeah, so what is Project Restore? So it's an acronym for Rescuing Endangered Species Through Outreach, Restoration, and Education. And we do not do this by ourselves. We have many cooperators and supporters, including the Albemarle-Pamlico National Estuary Partnership, East Carolina University, North Carolina State Parks, the North Carolina Wildlife Resources Commission, NC State University, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and the Triangle Fly Fishers. So we have 5 species that we are working with, and going in order from the top left, and if you're going clockwise, is the Carolina madtom. It's a small catfish and it is endangered, federally endangered. The Neuse River waterdog, which is a salamander, and it is federally threatened. Going down into a plant, we have the Venus flytrap, and it is state threatened. We have the American shad, which is a rare species but does not have an official designation, and the red wolf, which is an endangered animal. So American shad is what we'll start with, just because it starts with an A, and we call the program Shad in the Classroom. And in this program, schools get to have shad in their classrooms for a period of just 1 week, because these fish develop so quickly, but they learn everything that they can about the species. They get to see them develop and grow, and then they go back to the river to release them. And it does start with boat electrofishing, which is a tool that fishery biologists use to collect the fish from the river. This is Melissa Dallin holding an American shad. And you may have heard of shad before. There's a number of fish that are just called shad, but American shad is an anadromous species, meaning it lives in the ocean and comes into our rivers to spawn. So just like a salmon, which I think most people have heard of, is how their life cycle works. And why do we care about shad? Well, they have cultural and historical importance to North Carolina, and actually to the whole eastern coast of the United States. It at one time was the most valuable fish in all of North Carolina, and it is now a very popular sport fish. So used to be that we had landings up to 4 million in kilograms of weight of fish, and then there were dramatic declines in the shad landings. And so why? And one of the reasons was overfishing. People just thought the fish will last forever. They come in great numbers. We can take as much as we want. And then another is habitat degradation and pollution, and then habitat loss primarily due to dams. In North Carolina, the program started with a couple of schools in 2009. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife started a pilot program, and then in 2011, the museum took over the program from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife so that we could have more contact with our schools. And we grew to about our maximum, sometime around 33 or 34 schools in the year 2017 for what we could handle, because we have schools all the way from Iredell County to the coast of North Carolina. 2020, of course, we had no schools because that was when we had COVID, but we started to pick things back up again. Teachers receive a one-day training in February, and we bring in expert speakers from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, North Carolina Wildlife Resources Commission. The teachers will practice building their tanks, learning about water quality, learning about the species, the issues related to the species. And we've also had speakers from the Wildlife Commission, as I mentioned. This is Ben Ricks, and he can explain the management and the whole restoration process for the species. We've also had T.D. Van Middlesworth, who is the fisheries biologist for the Neuse River at this time. And you see him, he's actually measuring a striped bass, which is another anadromous fish in our waters, but he collects the striped bass and the shad at about the same time. Those fish are then brought to the Watha State Fish Hatchery, which is in Pender County. In the upper left corner, you can see some American shad swimming around in a tank. They need to have a round tank because otherwise they'll bump into the wall. One of the reasons that dams don't work so well for them. And you can see Jeff Evans, Landon Beaver, and Barry Midget working on getting us some of those embryos. So these are already fertilized eggs ready to go to our schools. On an early Monday morning, we go down to the hatchery and collect the shad, and then we deliver them to the schools all over the state, and we have multiple people helping us get them to the schools in a timely manner. The students are exposed to a curriculum when they receive the eggs that they can learn about the biology, the life cycles, the ecological importance, decline of the population, all kinds of issues about the management and restoration of the species, but they also actually get to work with the species. They see these little eggs develop eyes and backbones and a heartbeat and watch them emerge from their shells. And they are involved in every step of the process. They build their tanks, they'll measure their water quality, they'll look at the embryos and decide whether it's viable or not and remove the unviable so that the water quality is maintained. And the water quality is something that they're learning, that there's a delicate balance to life and that they are responsible for keeping that balance. They also have the opportunity to do many activities along with it, such as shad pipette art. So they will learn how to properly use a pipette for when they're collecting their eggs by doing an art project. They can also do a program called Shad Sense, where they learn how a shad might scent its way to its proper river to spawn again. Other activities include doing gyataku, which is the Japanese art form of printing, and they make t-shirts and posters and bags or whatever that they like to make with their shad printings. Fish anatomy has become one of the favorites of our schools that we can offer, and we have many volunteers that help bring these to the schools, and that's from ECU and NC State and Wildlife Commission. we have volunteers come in to teach these fish anatomy and dissection lessons. So this, like I said, has become one of the most popular, and we try to offer this to as many schools as we can. And we are very lucky that we receive fish for these anatomy lessons from retired fishery biologists and from the Wildlife Commission, that they'll collect some for us, and ECU also collects some of their own. Hey, then there's the releasing day. So the schools go to the Neuse River to release their shad, and sometimes that they have extra activities that they can do there. Their main focus is to acclimate the fish so that they can be released into the river, but they may also do water quality. They may get to see a boat electrofishing demonstration. They could also sample for aquatic macroinvertebrates while they're releasing their shad, and learn about the habitat all around them. A lot of these kids have never even been to the river, so this is a fantastic experience for them to get out and see what we have in North Carolina in a natural environment. This is just a quote I wanted to read you from one of our educators. They said, "I think allowing students to have this hands-on experience is so important to build well-rounded citizens. A lot of our youth now do not come in contact with nature on a regular basis, so this really gives them the opportunity to create those connections." And as I mentioned before, we have many volunteers that really help the program work, and we definitely appreciate that. And the kids appreciate it as well. So how can you find out about being part of Shad in the Classroom program? You can go to our website at naturalsciences.org, and if you just put in the search window Shad, you can find it, but also this is the direct link. Teachers had the opportunity to go out into the swamp and find out what it's like to be in the environment, a little bit of what the shad are in, and they got the chance to go fishing and canoeing along the River. They also learned about trees in the area and animals, and did all kinds of activities related to the environment to really immerse themselves in the river and the river habitat around the river. And they got to spend some nights in tree houses. This is on the River, and you can just go to their website if you would like to sleep in some tree houses. So next we're going to talk about the Carolina madtom. So another fish that's of a completely different size. These are much smaller than the American shad, which gets to be about hand length across, where you people do all kinds of like fish biologists, I'm going to just say how wide that's, where now we're going down to fish species that are just something that you could hold a couple of fingers up for. And this is a little catfish, and we have an education portion to it where the educators learn all about the Carolina madtom and its biology, issues related to why it might not be doing well. And this is Michael Fisk from the Wildlife Commission, who is the biologist that manages this species. So madtom, Rabida, the mad ones, and the reason they have this name is they have a little bit of venom in their spines, and it's kind of like a bee sting. They have a short, stout body form. They have curved pectoral spines. They have the whiskers like a catfish. And if you look at this map, this is a historical occurrence of the species, and they are endemic, meaning that's where they're naturally from, is the tar and the Neuse. This is the only place in the world where you'll find this species, the Carolina madtom. It's our fish from our backyard. And some of their needs are interstitial spaces for refuge and spawning, clean flowing water. They're found under rocks, woody debris, leaf litter, mussel shells. They're even found in bottles and cans. Some of the reasons that they have declined in number is a decrease in water quality. There's been habitat loss, and the flathead catfish, which is an introduced catfish species, eats our native catfish. So they are listed as federally endangered. The coastal plain population has been extirpated, meaning it's not there anymore. And it has not been detected in the Neuse since 2018. They are still finding them in the Tar River. The wildlife commissions bring the adult species to the conservation fisheries in Tennessee to spawn. Then they bring the juveniles, and the adults are released back into the Neuse and the Tar to help bring back the population in those areas. In this, you can see Michael Fisk, Mike Walters, and Susanna Morgan getting the fish acclimated so that they can be released back into the river. Teachers get the experience of actually being a biologist by snorkeling, which is the main way that biologists, the main technique that biologists use to find the species is snorkeling. So they get to go out and snorkel for the madtoms and look under rocks and in madtom hotels to find them, to work with the biologists at learning about them, getting their weight and their length, and then they are released back into the river. Junior curators at the Museum of Natural Sciences also had the opportunity to learn about the Carolina madtom when Michael Fisk came to speak to them about them, but they also were creating a madtom motel. And what's a madtom motel? So it is basically just some clay pots put together with some rocks that are glued to the bottom for weight to hold them down in the river. And in the upper right corner, you can see a little madtom peeking its head out of the motel. And these are really useful because they'll create additional habitat in areas that have little habitat in the river, but also they help the biologists find the madtoms because they do use these. So when they go out sampling again, they definitely go to check to see whether there are any madtoms in a motel. And so they get these motels after the students have created them and put them back into the river. The junior curators learned about the madtom life cycle you see in the upper left-hand corner, and the girls in science at the over the summer did a activity called Cat Hoot, where they learned about various catfish species and how to identify them. Okay, we are going to move on to the Neuse River waterdog, and this is a type of aquatic salamander. And this is a nice picture where you can see its gills are on the outside and they spend their entire life in the water. Some salamanders spend some of their life in the river and then some on land, similar to frogs, but these salamanders spend their entire life in the water. Jennifer Archambault with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and Eric Teitzwer is a postdoc student at NC State University, presented information about the species life history, the status, how they are doing now, and the biological information to our teachers. And I wanted to show you this map because these are also endemic to the Tar and the Neuse. So again, the Neuse River waterdog is only in North Carolina in these two river basins. And this map, the main thing I want you to see is that in the purple, that's where developed land has been, land is in these basins, and the circle that is around it, just to draw your eye to it, that is where we have lost a lot of the population of the Neuse River waterdog. So where we develop, there are less likely to be. And so we have lost 40% of the population in the Neuse and 30% in the Tar. So in 2021, they were listed as threatened according to the Endangered Species Act, and critical habitat was designated. So what does threatened versus endangered. Threatened is any species which is likely to become an endangered species within the foreseeable future throughout throughout all or a significant portion of its range. And in 2023, a draft recovery plan was published. So what are some of the threats? Here you see dams on the upper right corner, runoff in the lower left, and the introduced flathead catfish, again, is a threat to the water dog, similar to the little catfish, the Carolina madtom. But one of the most primary threats is actually sedimentation. The sediment is not good for gills of madtoms or of Neuse River water dog or other fish, other salamanders, and also they lay their eggs underneath rocks, and the sand can fill in the interstitial spaces. The sediment, sorry. So teachers participated in activities as they learned about the Neuse River water dog, and one is doing a life cycle activity where they behaved as if they were the Neuse River water dog, learning about each stage of their life, and that's on the right. And they also learned about different salamander species in North Carolina and how to identify them. Again, they got to act like a biologist and learn about them in the field. They use minnow traps to capture the water dogs. They just put a little bit of liver bait in there, and the water dogs swim into the minnow trap, and then we check the minnow traps. And then the teachers got to participate in measuring and weighing. So they took the length of the water dog, they got the weight of the water dog, the Caitlin and Eric would put the dyes in the water dog, and that's to identify individual species, and then they were released again. The junior curators got to hear from Eric as well and learn about the water dogs, and here they are participating in a population estimating technique that we called counting dogs. All right, we are going to switch gears to a mammal, and this is the red wolf, and it was first listed as threatened with extinction under the Endangered Species Preservation Act of 1966 in the year 1967. And they're currently listed as an endangered species under this Endangered Species Act of 1973. These population numbers are a bit scary. As of 2025, there's only 16 known in the wild that they are collared, but they expect there might be 17 or 19 that are not collared. And then there's some captive held in another location outside of North Carolina, and there's about 270 in captivity. And they had numbers up into the hundreds, and then the species has declined again, and it has to do with a lot of issues related to how well they're being protected, somewhat related to what the government wants for them, but also they have been shot at, they've been hit by cars, and the red collars or the orange collars really helps people identify that this is not a coyote, this is a red wolf. We brought teachers out to the Red Wolf Center in the Poquoson Lakes to learn about the Red Wolves recovery program with Joe Madison. And they got to experience using radio telemetry to learn about the red wolves, to identify where they are within the habitat. And they also learned about the red wolves from Joe. And this was an experience that was not just about red wolves, but also we call it where swans fly, bears walk, and wolves howl. So the teachers also got to see the incredible migration of the swans and the snow geese, and they also learned about how to identify them by the wings, and you see the teachers up in the right corner having wings to show you. And then also we saw raccoons and bears and beavers, and we were just immersed in the whole habitat. This is not one that we bring students out directly to, but they get to learn about it through their teachers bringing the information back to them. And also, we did bring to the junior curators, they got to learn about the red wolf and the recovery program. And here they're doing an activity using a footprint mold to estimate the size of the species. So this is a red wolf, but they also had, someone would have a bear and another group would have a coyote, and then they put the puzzles together. Okay, let's switch to plants. And this is the Venus flytrap. And we have two programs that go with this, Friends of Flytraps and Plants That Bite. Friends of Flytrap is the program where the students get to have the flytraps in their classroom. They learn about them for 6 weeks. They take care of them. They get to feed them. And then they go to Carolina Beach State Park to release them or actually plant them. Dale Suter is the U.S. Fish and Wildlife biologist that is the one who manages the species. Then the Plants That Bite is part of a whole program where teachers get to learn about all of our carnivorous plants in North Carolina. So guess what? The Venus flytraps from North Carolina, and it is our plant. And in your backyard in the coast, there's also a population in South Carolina. So if you were to look at this map, you're going to notice that there are yellow and blue colored counties, where all of the colored counties are where they were or are now. The ones that are yellow is where they are now, and the blue where they are no longer found. They are listed in North Carolina as threatened, but they do not have a federal status. So some of the causes for the decline in the Venus flytrap is habitat loss due to development, agriculture and silviculture, fire suppression, poaching, hydrology changes. All of these types of things are threats to the Venus flytrap. So if we go first to flytrap friends or friends of the flytraps, we go to Carolina Beach and we start out again with a workshop for the teachers where they can learn about the habitat, learn about the species and the threats to the species. On the left, you see Jesse Anderson. At that time, they had just had a controlled burn, and burn is very important to the Venus flytrap, similar to the longleaf pine, which is also part of the same habitat. In the Friends of Flytrap program, the students get to have seedlings that they receive from the Carolina Beach State Park, and they have them in their classroom. And you see the students counting how many flytraps that they have, that if as they grow, whether they get some dead traps and live traps, and they do general observation skills. And like I said before, they can also feed them. We give them little mealworms that they can hydrate and add to them, to the diet of the flytrap. And here you see the students then come back to Carolina Beach State Park after 6 weeks and plant their flytraps. In addition to planting the flytraps, they also learn about general habitat in the area. So they complete a life cycle activity on the longleaf pine. They'll do a pitcher, the yellow pitcher plant. They'll do a dissection to see what types of critters that the plant ingested. And these were, we used a lot of the plants that were donated from the Carolina Beach State Park and also from the North Carolina Botanical Gardens. In Plants That Bite, in addition to the Venus flytrap, they are also learning about other carnivorous plants that are in North Carolina, like the sundew on the left and the butterwort on the right. Here you see teachers getting up close and personal to the carnivorous plants and getting very close and viewing them. They're actually quite tiny and you might miss them if you didn't know what you're looking for. And here is a pitcher plant. This is the purple pitcher plant, and there's also a yellow pitcher plant as well, but this is the purple pitcher plant. And here teachers are doing transect activities, looking at the landscape and deciding what might be in there, examining it with using a transect. These teachers happen to put theirs right on a small longleaf pine. We've also brought this into the schools just with a general education, such as at Exploris Elementary School. They are raising their own Venus flytraps, and we came in to talk to them about the plant and its threats and how to help them. And the kids created their own Venus flytrap puppets. So what's next? We have coming up in July, another trek called Mad for Madtoms, where the teachers will go snorkeling with the madtoms like we were talking about in the slideshow. And this is something that educators can sign up for at this website at naturalsciences.org/learn/educators. The trek is full at this time, so if you're interested in any of our treks, I'd recommend that you come on frequently and sign up as soon as possible. But don't despair if it's full. Go ahead and sign up to be on the waiting list because sometimes spots open. So just to show you in general, if you go to naturalsciences.org/learn/educators, you'll find a lot of educational resources such as nature neighborhood workshops, educator treks like the ones that I was describing, school grounds workshops, Educator of Excellence Institute, and more. So please go ahead and come look at that. Also, if you have any questions about the program, please feel free to contact me at danielle.pender@naturalsciences.org and Megan Davis at naturalsciences.org. And she is the coordinator of teacher education. Okay, so that's all I have for you all. I'm welcome any questions that you might have.
Well, first off, how about a great big round of applause for you, Danielle?
Oh, thank you.
Lovely presentation. It's so exciting. I can't believe how much the museum is invested in so many of our local threatened and endangered species. I mean, like I shouldn't be surprised by that, but it's still really cool to see just how engaged and involved you are, and thereby the museum with teachers and students and community partners. Like that's a huge network of people out there learning about and getting engaged with threatened and endangered species.
Yes, absolutely. And it's great to see the excitement and be able to share it with both the students and the teachers, and for them to get to know what's really in their backyards. Like I was saying, a lot of people did not realize, for instance, the Venus flytrap is from North Carolina. People think of it as being something exotic and maybe from another country, but it's our plant.
It is our plant. I'm going to remind our viewers real quick that watching on YouTube means that you have the ability to post questions in the chat. So it looks like a few questions are starting to roll in, but as you have more folks and as we continue the conversation for the rest of our time, feel free to jump in and let me know what you're thinking. And Danielle, if you want, you can go ahead and take down your screen share too.
Okay, sounds
since
good.
we're going to have a nice chat. If somebody needs to see another picture of a madtom or a Neuse River waterdog, we'll pull it back up for them. First question for you that I see that came in for the chat, though, is about shad in the classroom. Are there any schools in Orange County participating?
Yes, absolutely. Do you need me to find the schools? Because
you can look them up.
Yeah.
So there you go. It's the username is NC Food Landed People. They were curious. I guess for maybe a super specific inquiry like that, they should reach out to you.
Yes, definitely. And And even if the school is already in the county, we have multiple schools in the county, it wouldn't preclude a school from being from the county if we already have one, if that's your question.
Okay. All right, next up, what do you think is the biggest impact of these programs on the conservation of these plants and animals?
I think the biggest impact is getting people to care about them and know about them. If you don't know that they're there and um, is one thing, but also if you are actually involved in the care of the species, that brings a whole nother level of how you feel about an animal or a plant. The kids, for instance, with the shad, they'll be releasing 1,000 shad and they'll be trying to name every single one of them. They care about them. They want them to come back and they'll talk about my shad's going to come back. And um, that I think is hugely impactful, is being able to touch and really be part of it.
I like it. I like it a lot. Can you say a little more about poaching and its impact on the flytrap?
Yeah, so it's actually a pretty hefty fine with jail time if they are poached. Um, they don't get very much money for them, so it doesn't all the way seem to make sense that they continue to poach, especially given the fine of $5,000 and some jail time. But as far as how that impacts the species, it's really habitat that is the biggest culprit. One of the ways that you can tell if you wanted to buy a Venus flytrap, because you can buy them, and they might even be in Walmart, is that if the plant is just purely the plant and no other little grasses and um, other things growing in them, they're most likely a cultured plant. So the Venus flytrap can be cultured, and so just by splitting the plant, you can make more plants. They also, of course, will populate by seed and using the pollinators. If you have it one from the wild and it has all those grasses and type of things, then you might want to go ahead and report that and not buy that plant. But it is perfectly fine for you to own a cultured plant that was not from the wild.
Okay, so it might almost look like somebody dug it out of the ground.
Yes, right. They'll
Kind of
have,
kind of a thing.
yeah, other kinds of things growing around it versus just dirt in the plant.
Good to keep a lookout on. Let's see. Do you maintain a list of schools that participate? How do you select schools?
Okay, so with the Shad in the Classroom program, it's by application. And yes, we have everybody that's been part of the program from the beginning of time. We have that list. Every year, if you've been in the program, you are welcome to come back. And we accept new applications. And if there's space, they can that we can accept them into the program. So it depends on how much space we have, how many new schools we can accept, but most of the time we've been able to accept new schools, at least a few each year. And if we can't accept you, if we're full, and we encourage them to definitely apply in the next year. So it's an application process every year. For the Venus flytrap, similarly, but you need to be in the area for the Venus flytrap. So all of our schools are in Columbus or Onslow County um, or right by, like, Carolina Beach is one of our schools, right in the area so that they can get there to plant their plants. As far as the trek, those are you would go to the website and just sign up for it. And some of those are, well, all of those are first come, first serve. So that's why you got to get on there quickly.
You got to get on there quickly.
Got to get in there. And don't forget, you just go ahead and sign up for it if on the waiting list, because things happen and people have to back out.
My experience helping out just a little bit with educator programs here at the museum. There's there's always room on the wait list.
There is.
Always. And even then, just get in the habit of checking that website, putting your name on the list.
Definitely.
Just do it every
Definitely.
time.
Keep
Okay,
checking.
just stay on it. Um, okay, there's so many good questions here. Okay, here's a big one. What is your favorite memory from many years of doing these programs with teachers and students?
Hmm. I would say, well, I've been doing the shad in the classroom program for 13 years and the other species for 3. So, my favorite memory is from a shad in the classroom when I was out with some students and they were in the water barefoot and climbing along trees and just excited to be there in the habitat, just happy that they are at the river. So I'd say that's my favorite memory.
Yeah, just uh, just that joy that comes from
The
nature,
joy of being in the environment. Yeah. Mhm.
and hopefully for so many of them that being uh, a standout experience for them as well. Like I hope that one of their long-term memories of that experience is the same as yours, right? Like that those students also go like, you know what? I will never forget jumping in that river and walking in my bare feet along the trees to look for and to participate in this program with these fish when I was a kid.
Right.
Thing.
Yeah.
That's what makes the difference. Okay. David wants to know what additional species you would like to add to the program.
Hmm. So the species that we add to the program that are endangered, we would work with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service because they are the ones, if for federally listed species. So that would be something we'd closely work with them on what they would like to see as well in the education system. So at this point, we wouldn't add any, but let's say that we were redoing our negotiation. We have a number of species of fish and um, mussels that are really interesting to learn about that I think bringing the attention to our schools and our people of North Carolina would be good.
Is there a way for people to support Project Restore?
Hmm. So we are funded through the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and the APNEP and the Triangle Fly Fishers. So as far as you, if you mean financial support, probably giving to conservation groups, land conservancy, those types of things would really help the species. And that's, what is important is helping our species in North Carolina.
Oh, and I see a user on YouTube named NCMNS Teacher Education. We know who that
I
is.
wonder who that is.
Wonder who that is. Wrote that we always accept donations and volunteers for any of our programs, particularly Shad helping with releases and
Yes.
Flytrap Friends helping with student programs. Thanks, Megan.
Yes. Thank you, Megan.
Okay, let's see. Are there similar programs to Restore and Shad in the Classroom based in other parts of the state?
So there's trout in the classroom in the western part of our state where we have trout, and actually shad in the classroom is based on that, or modeled after that. They trout take a lot longer to develop and they keep their fish a lot longer. There's some extra types of things you need to raise them. They need the water very cold, so there has to be a chiller. And of course, it's mountains, that's where they belong. So Trout in the Classroom is in the mountains, and that's primarily run by Trout Unlimited.
Okay, well that's fun. So so the museum, you've been a part of Shad in the Classroom for 13 years. Is that when Shad in the Classroom first got started, or how long has that program been running?
So it started actually in 2009, and that was with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. They did a pilot program. So Shad in the Classroom has other names in other states, like Shad in Schools. So they actually started that in the Potomac and the Chesapeake Bay area. So in Pennsylvania and on down through Virginia and states in between, there have been programs for the shad as well. American shad is very important, like I was saying, all along our coast. And then the U.S. Fish and Wildlife wanted to bring it here. So 2009 is when that pilot program was started. And then they coordinated with the museum in 2011 to be able to expand the program and reach more schools. And then the museum then acquired the program.
Okay, wow. Interesting. Interesting history. Can you talk a little bit more about maybe managing this network of conservation organizations and federal agencies that make so many of these programs possible? Like how do you and the teacher education unit at the museum like keep track of that was like 10 different organizations that are all doing different pieces of conservation work alongside you in the museum uh, to benefit these species?
Yeah, so it is a hugely coordinated effort, and it's an something that everyone cares about. Each of the agencies care about these species, our the habitat in North Carolina, and so I would say everybody has like a portion in it, and so sometimes it might be funding that they are helping with. Other times it's with logistical help or with, so for instance, the Wildlife Commission, they get our broodstock. We could not do it without them getting the broodstock, which means the parent shad fish, the American shad, they get the shad, they bring it to the hatchery. We rely on the hatchery having them there and getting the fish to spawn so we can have the embryos. So that is our coordination with them. They also come and speak to our schools at times. Um, they then all of the people that can help us drive our embryo, like Megan was mentioning, we go all the way from Watha, which is in Pender County, and spread across the state to bring them. So the many people help with driving the embryos or even meeting the schools at the river, because one person can't be at every site that everyone's releasing them to. Carolina Beach Park, they are our recent partners with the Venus flytrap. Of course, they care about the habitat and in the park, in the area, and those types of plants and everything. And we coordinate with them they will raise them from seedlings and into these tiny little plants that then we are able to share with the schools. And then they also are heavily participating with us for finding the spots to plant them and for teaching about the habitat, teaching what it means to be a ranger, um, and what the importance is of the species in um, in regard to fire and everything about the habitat at the Carolina Beach Park. Then U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, also in addition to being a major funding source, comes out with us to sample with the species and teach the teachers about the species in the field. And the Albemarle Pamlico National Estuary Partnership, in addition to funding, also they help us deliver the eggs, and they help with meeting the schools at the river. So everyone's got like pieces that they help, and we just coordinate getting it all together.
You must have so many people on speed dial. Like when it's shad season, when
Oh
it's
my gosh,
shad
shad season is
season, when
crazy. And
it's
it starts Monday.
oh my gosh, shad season starts Monday.
Yes, Monday. They are out right now collecting the broodstock. So yeah, they'll be in the hatchery. And I'll be taking a few teachers on Saturday to go see them in the hatchery. And then Monday, um, uh, Megan and I, and also someone from APNAP, will head down to the hatchery and then bring them to the schools.
Very exciting, very exciting. I can't believe you had an hour in your day to come and join us here for the series. You must be very busy. How many emails must be sitting in your inbox right
Emails, phone calls. Yes.
and I assume too there must be like the network of teachers that you work with must be pretty tremendous as well. I
They
mean,
are. The teachers are fantastic. They're a huge part of the program. We they learn about how to their tanks how to raise the shad and all about releasing, and then they bring it to their students. And obviously we couldn't do it without them, and their enthusiasm is huge, and what they bring to their students, they bring their enthusiasm to the students.
What's the most challenging part about working with endangered species? I mean, because if we're talking about 19 red wolves left in the wild in North Carolina, maybe like that, like intuitively to me, that feels like a challenging part of it. But what do you feel like is hard about it?
So, so when something is protected like that, there's only so much you can do to interact with. So that would probably be the most challenging part, is to be able to build that love like we were talking about. You need to have some kind of connection, and the interacting is the connection. So something like the red wolves, and also they're dangerous, so you keep, as close as you get is viewing them through a scope, or they have a couple at the wildlife refuge that you can view through a fence. So up close and personal is not so much with, some species, and even with something as, the Carolina madtom, we have to take very good care when we go in the field with them. So as the teachers are snorkeling, to view them, we're not doing a lot of handling. um we want to disturb them as little as possible, but also get to experience and view them and work with a biologist so that they do get that feel and that care for them. Whereas with shad, they are a rare species, but they're not a listed species. But because, that, and, they get to really get the deeper hands-on working with them.
Interesting, interesting. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. When when the goal is to try to get these really deep connections built, individual, person by person with the species, and they can have a hands-on type interaction versus not. And then trying to facilitate as get as close as you can to that.
Yeah,
That's
as close as you can without harming the critter that you're trying to save. Don't love it to death.
yeah, that's really interesting. Don't love it to death. That's really interesting. All right. Well, Danielle, thank you.
Absolutely.
Thanks for sharing. It was great to learn about the work that's going on, to learn about these species, and just to hear your stories and insights and see some great pictures of people out there enjoying nature. And we hope falling in love with these incredible species that we live alongside.
Yeah, that's what we want. Fall in love with them, care about them, take care of them.
Everybody, thanks for tuning in to today's edition of the Lunchtime Discovery Series. Of course, we'll be back here again next Wednesday at noon with another edition. So don't miss out. Head to naturalsciences.org. You can check out the calendar of events at the museum's website and see this program's schedule for the rest of the month, as well as others just like it. There's always something cool and interesting happening here at the Museum of Natural Sciences. And then don't miss out on checking the Office of Environmental Education. Go see what they've got going on too at eenorthcarolina.org. You can get the links for this program there as well, but maybe more importantly, over at their website, you can sign up for the email newsletter for the Lunchtime Discovery Series. That way, every week, you'll get the YouTube link to this program in your inbox right at the top, so you can just click through and join us, try to make it easy as we can. Once again, Danielle, thank you for the incredible work that you're doing for teachers and students and North Carolinians and beyond, and for the Museum of Natural Sciences. You're making us look good out there.
Thank you for having me here to talk about Project Restore.
And everybody, get out there, support your local natural history museum. That's us. And support your endangered species, I suppose. We will see you again soon. Take care, stay safe, be kind to people around you. Have a great week, everybody. Bye.
Bye, thank you.